Happy August, Seattle hockey fans. As we inch closer to training camp, have we done enough to maintain, if not improve, from our second season and first ever playoff berth? Let's talk about what the experts are saying about our prospect pool. Plus, we'll take a deeper dive into November schedule. That and more on this episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you think, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day. Now, it's August 1st, which means we are getting ever closer to what I believe will be and must be our most competitive training camp ever. There are so many great things that we have to talk about. We're going to mix in a little bit of prospect conversation in today's episode. We're going to go over the schedule, the November schedule in particular, and some games that I have circled. But we are going to start with the big question of the offseason. I've asked this so many times, so many ways. No, not Merry Christmas, but have we done enough? Have we had our Christmas in July for the Seattle Kraken or whatever holiday you celebrate? I want to be all inclusive, but have we gathered up enough talent to maintain what we did last season? Just as a reminder, the Seattle Kraken, 100 points overall. We'll get into the record. We'll get into the goals in just a little bit. They make it into the first round of the playoffs, take out the reigning champs in 7 games, make it to round 2, and fall to the Dallas Stars in 7 games. So we've got 14 games of postseason Stanley Cup playoff experience under our belt as a franchise. But have we done enough to maintain that? And we're really going to talk insular because obviously other teams are making moves. There are retirements. There are all kinds of things, injuries and coaching changes. But we're going to stay insular. We're going to live in a world where we do some quick math and we're asking the question of the day: are we better? Are we better? And there are a million ways you can break this down. Like I said, I'm going to do some pretty simple math. We're going to use Hockey Reference, or at least that's where I pulled some of these stats from. They're available multiple places. But here's what I talk about. Let's talk about our goals and our points. As I mentioned, we had 100 points. That's great for this Kraken team. My big, bad, bold prediction going into last year's training camp was that I wanted us to be a 500 team. We did that. 46, 28, and 8 was the record. So we surpassed that. Now, the 100 points, how did we get those points? Well, I want to talk about, so the record 46, 28, and 8, 46, 28, and 8 are record 100 points. Now, the goals for and goals against, we tallied 289 goals. That is 6 out of 32 teams. We gave up 256 goals, which is middle of the pack-ish, 15th out of all 32 teams. Now, here's something, again, that Hockey Reference has. The simple rating system. How much were we above our average when it comes to goals scored? 0.36 above average, which is just outside of the top 10, 11th out of 32. And again, that's more based on some predictions, and there's some that's not the quick math. That's the more complicated math. But then also our strength of schedule. And I think this is going to be interesting. We are going to have a schedule conversation. I don't want to talk about strength of schedule, at least not yet, but the strength of schedule for the Seattle Kraken last year, 26th out of 32, according to Hockey Reference. So in the negative, the numbers there. So 100 points is now the bar that has been set. A 500 team, we did that again, 46, 28, and 8. Here are the stats, though, that I want to talk about when we're talking about simple math. And listen, I am not a mathematician. I look at numbers and I try to keep them the way I see them and then analyze them from there. So what I want to do is talk about some of the players that we have lost or that have gone to other, hopefully not for our sake, greener pastures. But we're going to talk about some players who are on that roster in season 2 who will not be returning, as far as we know. And then, of course, we'll talk about the additions, the players that are coming in. And so that's where the quick math comes in, particularly talking about goals, but then also wins, because I've been telling you, I want to talk about Martin Jones and his impact on this team. We're going to talk about that. Let's get into it. Some of the exits, as you know, and of course, I have him right here on my desk for those watching on YouTube. For those who are listening on any audio platform, including Sirius SXM, where you can search Kraken and you find the Locked On Kraken show. Ryan Donato. You know, Ryan's one of my guys. I mean, I just really like his play. So, you know, he's moving on. Morgan Geekie going to Ryan's going to Chicago. Morgan Geekie in Boston. We also have Daniel Sprung headed to Detroit, and Carson Soucy stays in the division, not just in the Western Conference, but stays in the division with Vancouver. So why do I want to talk about these guys? One, I always love talking about Ronnie. I love talking about Ryan Donato. He's my guy. You know, he's my guy. But Ryan Donato, we're just going to talk about goals. Ryan Donato gave us 14 goals last season. All right. Morgan Geekie gave us another 9 goals. And Daniel Sprung gave us 21 goals. Carson Soucy, 3 goals. Out of these guys, if you just look at the goals, obviously losing 21 goals from Spronger and 14 from Donny Boy. That's tough. That's tough, you know? All right. So that's 47 goals for the Seattle Kraken out the door. 47 goals out the door. All right. We're going to talk about this and how it makes an impact. Martin Jones. Martin Jones is listed as inactive. All right. So he's not with us. He signed a 1-year contract. Don't know if he's going to be with anyone else. But Martin Jones got us 27 wins. So that's 27 wins out the door. And this is quick, simple math. These are just the facts. They're the stats. We're not getting into other factors because I think there are a myriad of factors that obviously go into this. But let's just talk the raw data numbers. Martin Jones, 27 wins. Now, Philip Grubauer, the most amount of wins that he's had in one singular season, that would be the 2020-2021 season. So he played 40 games in that season. He won 30 games in that season. Now that's pretty solid. He started 39 of 40 games, but he got 30 wins. The second highest in his entire career, and he's done this 3 times and just missed doing it a 4th for Seattle. But after his 30 wins in what was a COVID year, the most games that Philip Grubauer has won in a season, 18. 18. You can see, again, he's done that 3 times, including once with the Seattle Kraken in the inaugural season. But he hit 18 wins in 2018, 2019 in Colorado, 2019, 2020 in Colorado. And then, as I said, that 2020, 2021 season, that was his Vezina year, Vezina finalist year. He, in 39 starts, got 30 wins. All right. Not bad. But then you see the numbers plummeted. 55 games played, 54 starts for Seattle, 18 wins. Last year he had the injury bug, so he had 39 games played, 36 starts, 17 wins. So just shy of his second highest win total, which he has hit 3 times in his career. So, what is this telling me? And then we've got so he's got 17 one time, 13, 15. So, we're looking at that, let's say 20 goals. Let's say 20 or 20 wins, excuse me. So you saw the numbers for Philip Grubauer. If we say maybe he's going to get us 20 wins, somewhere in there, that's still 7 short of what Martin Jones got us. All right. Martin Jones, whether you liked it or not, was an integral part of helping the Seattle Kraken along. All right. And I'm a little bit concerned. So we got to see what Chris Drieger and what Joey Daccord are going to do. That's why I keep saying training camp is going to be competitive. All right. Training camp is going to be competitive, and it's going to need to be. But coming up next on Locked on Kraken, I also want to talk about the players that we've added to the player pool, as well as some prospects to get a gauge on, again, the question of the day. Are we a better team? That's coming up on this episode of Locked on Kraken. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by FanDuel. Now we know that Major League Baseball is in full swing, and now is the perfect time to start using FanDuel for all your sports betting needs. When you use FanDuel to bet on Major League Baseball, you will get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. You bet $20 and you'll get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to over under to who you think is going to get the first home run in any given contest. All that on an app that is safe, it is secure, it is super easy, and you get your money instantly with their easy payout. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you will get up to $200 in bonus bets when you place your first deposit. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily routine, the everydayers. We are in the dog days of summer now, so we should be coming to you 3 times a week. All right, we'll get into a nice little summer groove here before we get ready for training camp. And what we're talking about today, question of the day, are we better? Are we a better team? So I told you what we're losing. We're losing 47 goals. We're losing 27 wins because of the players that we lost in the offseason. Ryan Donato, Morgan Geekie, Carson Soucy, Daniel Sprong, and then Martin Jones. That's where those 27 wins come from. Now let's talk about what we gained. All right? Because maybe what we got at least makes up for what we lost. So we have Kyler Yamamoto, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and Brian Dumoulin. Now, Kyler Yamamoto comes in with 10 goals just looking at last season. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, 4 goals, and Brian Dumoulin just the 1. That's 15 goals. So, 47 minus 15, that's 32 goals missing. And just to torture us, because if you are an everydayer, you know we've played these little thought activities, and we've talked about William Nylander, we've talked about Erik Karlsson perhaps coming to the Seattle Kraken, and those are the players that were most closely associated with Seattle, particularly Karlsson. So if we had gotten either one of those players, how close would we have come to making up the 32 goals that we're missing? Well, with Nylander, we get it in one fell swoop. William Nylander had 40 goals last season for Toronto. So we get that and then some. I like that. Except as of right now, William Nylander is not on our roster. Erik Karlsson, 32 goals. We need 32 goals. He gives us 25. As a blue liner, gives us 25 goals. That's basically Daniel Sprong plus Carson Soucy. There you go. But again, Erik Karlsson not on the Seattle Kraken roster. So where are these goals going to come from? Now, again, this is super quick math. It is in a vacuum. It is in a bubble. We don't know. So the question is, are we a better team? And my answer is, by this quick math, the answer is no. But what we're going to do later on this week is talk about who can help us make up those goals, who can help us make up those wins on the roster that we do have. And there are some candidates. There are definitely some candidates. And we're going to look at their performance from last season and see if and how it will translate this year. So obviously, I already talked about the additions. So we're talking about players who were on the Seattle Kraken roster, or at least in the Seattle Kraken organization, who I think can help us make up those 32 goals that we're missing from what we lost from Donato, Geeky, Sprong, and Soucy. Again, that's 47 goals out the door. We only bring in 15 goals from the additions that we've made for the skaters. For the goaltenders, Martin Jones gone, listed as inactive, so not with any team. We lose 27 wins based off of last season. Philip Grubauer got us 18 wins in season 1 in our inaugural season. He got us 17 last year, regular season. And then, of course, I think he did a fantastic job in the postseason for us, really kept us in those games. So where is that going to come from? Do we have enough on Chris Driedger post ACL surgery? We know that Joey Daccord had a good run with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. We're going to talk about the Coachella Valley Firebirds in a little more detail later this week because they have some good news. And our friend Ryan S. Clark with a great article on Jessica Campbell. So that's coming up later in the week. I don't want to talk about it right now. I really want to focus on our question of the day. Are we better? Are we a better team? These numbers suggest that we have some work to do. But the prospect pool is promising. How do you like that alliteration? The prospect pool is promising. And there are a few experts that have put us in pretty good company. Now, Yahoo ranks the Seattle Kraken in technically last month in July, 9th overall out of 32 NHL teams, with the top 3 prospects being Shane Wright, Riker Evans, and Jagger Furcus. Top pick, we know, was Edward Shala. Here's what Yahoo had to say. The Seattle Kraken are ahead of schedule in almost every metric, and they were gifted some spectacular prospects who slipped into their hands in the last 2 drafts. After he was the wire-to-wire consensus #1 prospect, they got Shane Wright at #4 last year. And this year, they found not only Edward Shala available, but also grabbed Carson Remkampf, Oscar Fisker-Molgaard, and Lucas Dracivic. I'm going to work on that name. So overall, we're at best middle of the pack, but some have us moving up. And There's also hockey prospecting that lists the Seattle Kraken just a one spot ahead of what we saw for Yahoo, and they have us, the Seattle Kraken, at 8 in what is their NHL team prospect pool strength rankings as of July 2023. And so they have different shades, like a darker blue is your top. So Columbus Blue Jackets, a lot of people are really liking what Columbus is doing with Montreal, Philadelphia, Anaheim. Got to watch that. Buffalo Sabres, the Minnesota Wild, and the Chicago Blackhawks. The Chicago Blackhawks come in at 7 on this list. So obviously we know they got Connor Bedard, but maybe we have a little more breadth and depth in our prospect pool. So interesting. Now the goalie rankings for the Seattle Kraken. Ooh, 26th. We got to do there. Ain't that the story of the franchise? So why am I talking about these prospect rankings? Well, that is because our very own Hadi Kalikesh is going to be ranking all 32 teams in their prospect pool. So we're going to be following Locked On NHL prospects in the coming days and weeks. But I'm curious to see how it all plays out. But coming up next on Locked On Kraken, let's just look at the November schedule. We did October a couple of weeks ago. So now let's head for the November schedule. Games that I have circled. Just on feels alone. Yeah, we're going by feels. So let's take a look at that November schedule. That's coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken. Once again, I want to thank you for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily routine. Locked On Kraken, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day, or teams, because maybe you want to know what the Mets are doing, like getting rid of Max Scherzer, as an example. Shohei Ohtani, what's going on there? Obviously, I've got baseball on the mind, but also if you want to know what's going on with the NHL, we've got a show for all of our teams individually, but then also the Locked On NHL show. And I mentioned already our NHL prospects show, which we're going to be following in the coming days and weeks as Hadi releases his countdown of top teams regarding their prospect pool. So what are we looking at for the Seattle Kraken? They're going to have what is this? 2, 4, 6 away games and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 home games in November. Starts off on a Thursday, and we take on the Nashville Predators. Now, I love squad casting with my homie and Kimmel. And you best believe we're going to have some squad casts for you. So let me give you the full screen here just for a moment, and then we'll get into it. But the Nashville Predators, we've met some success against them. We've talked with Nick and Ann, who are the hosts of Locked On Predators, a few times. They're still a little bit sour grapes about Ellie Tolvanen, who, little sneak peek spoiler, might be one of the players that I talk about when it comes to closing that gap, right? We've got about 32 goals that we've got to make up. I think Ellie Tolvanen is going to be on that list. So, always fun with Nashville. 2 days later, we take on the Calgary Flames. Oof, talk about Flames being an apropos name. What's going on with Calgary? Lots going on with Calgary. Check out our girl Jessica, Locked On Flames, to learn a little bit more about that. Then we will go to Mullet Arena to take on the Arizona Coyotes. They've got a lot going on too, but some promise there as far as prospect rankings from what I've been seeing around. I dabble a little bit here and there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Arizona, how they're reacting to things. I don't know that they're going to make a massive leap, but no one thought we were going to make a massive leap last year, or the Devils, for example. So we'll see. Then we're going to take on the Colorado Avalanche. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. just as a reminder, so Nashville's a team that we definitely, as you can see, we hit the road against them. Colorado comes to us. We see Daniel Sprong in our first weekend of action, but as you can see here, this is the November schedule, but or October schedule, excuse me. But going back to November, so this will be the first time we take on the Avalanche in Colorado, which I think could be interesting given how our 7-game first round series went with them. They took out one of our guys. We took out one of their guys. It got a little spicy. So, I feel like we've got no bad blood with Dallas, but maybe some bad blood with Colorado. So we're going to see them twice, as you can see. And we're also going to see the Edmonton Oilers twice in November. Both Colorado and Edmonton, we are a home and home. Vancouver is same thing, home and home. Calgary, we see them twice at Climate Pledge Arena. But obviously, I have this one on the 28th at Chicago circled. And why? Obviously, for this guy right here, Ryan Donato. I'm very curious to see what Ryan Donato does. We'll also, I guess, see where Connor Bedard is. Maybe he's in his little 15-game stint at the NHL. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, Chicago got the first pick overall. So, yeah. Erik Karlsson would have closed our gap a little bit. We talked about that earlier in the season. 25 goals last year he had out of 32 that we need to make up given our exits. But, not in the cards, at least not right now. So I've said it before. I know I've talked about it on the Locked On NHL show, on obviously Locked On Kraken and other places. I think we're once again going to make some pretty big moves at the trade deadline. And next offseason has to be go time for the Seattle Kraken. But that's our schedule. I'm looking forward to that Chicago game. I'm hoping to get out to Chicago for some games and hit the road a little bit more to catch up with the Seattle Kraken. It's one of my favorite things to do because we have an amazing core that covers the Seattle Kraken. I don't know. Just a reminder, FanDuel sponsored our show for today. I don't know why I put that back up. Here's what I meant to do. I think it's going to be an exciting season. It's going to be tough. We're not taking teams by surprise. Other teams are coming out of their rebuilds. Players are on the move. Coaches are on the move. And the stakes just get higher. We're further removed from those COVID years where things got a little dicey and complicated and players were in and out of the lineup unexpectedly, on top of just what are your regular hockey injuries. We've got a decent amount to prove, I think. And I want us we arrived early, playing with house money last year. Now it's time to settle in. What are going to be our true habits? What is the Kraken way? We talked about that last week. What is the Kraken way and how is it evolving in season 3? We're going to talk about that and so much more in the days, in the weeks, in the months to come as we get ready for season 3, baby. I kind of like the number 3. I'm usually more of an even number gal, but the number 3 is a good number. So if you're into numerology or just good vibes, yeah, I feel good about season 3, but we're going to have to work hard. We're going to find out how much dog we got in our team, and I'm so excited, and it starts with training camp, so keep up with us. Locked On Kraken, and a great way to support the show. If you find value in our videos, if you like the conversation, comment on YouTube, comment on social media, subscribe, and rate and review the show. That's going to help us. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and do that. We're really trying to get towards monetization. I would love to do that. Let's say by November. We just went through the November schedule. I'd love to get to 1,000+ subscribers by November. We can do it. let's do it. And if there's more that you want from me, comment about it. Let's do this together. But once we get to monetization, that helps me take all of the energy, all of the resources, all of the travel, will get more investment back into this program, which means I can just do even more because there's more opportunity for us to get local sponsors, for us to tap into the rev share of the Locked On network. So yeah, we want to do that. I'm up in the ante as well in season 3. So I'm so glad that you're along for the ride. It's going to be a good one. Remember, we're going to talk about how we're going to close that gap because right now, my quick math is telling me that there is a gap. Are we better? Not yet. I don't think we're better yet. These are all subject, though, to change. We got to see how we play the games. You know, I'm going to say it. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. And hold fast. Stay true. And let's go Kraken. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.